Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show, and today we are going to be reviewing the third episode of Series 12 of Doctor Who, of course, Orphan 55. I didn't like this episode that much. Now, it felt really like a Doctor Who episode, though. At the beginning, I really liked the idea of this kind of seemingly very peaceful kind of spa being run over by aliens. That's just Doctor Who. So for the first part, where they were in the spa and just solely in the spa, I really liked it. It just felt kind of like a classic base under siege story, and I was really kind of intrigued by it. But once they kind of figured out that, you know, this was kind of a fake-cation, and basically they were kind of in this kind of little bubble, basically, this kind of protected area, because the rest of the planet is destroyed. You could just see desolate, nothing for the miles to see, except the only occupants are, of course, the dregs. And the dregs are very creepy, very well-designed monster for Doctor Who. Now, of course, we'll get to the spoiler part of this review very soon with what the dregs really are. And it's a very interesting idea. But let's, of course, start with, of course, performances. Jodie Whittaker did a really good job in this episode. I think she did a great job in this episode. And my complaint from the very first episode where I said she used the psychic too much, in this episode, it was very well balanced, and she even brought back the psychic paper, which I really do enjoy when we get to see that again. Of course, Graham, still my favorite companion. Some very funny lines in this episode. Ryan and Yaz, I think they still add a lot sometimes to the story, but I'm just not really invested in their characters yet still, and they're just not some of my favorite companions right now. And of course, the side characters really seemed underdeveloped. Now, there were some really good kind of themes they could have explored, like family. I think they could have really explored that very well. But besides that, I found the side characters very forgettable and just kind of forgetting their names right when the episode ended. So let's start with the positives of the story. Jodie Whittaker's acting is amazing. The idea of this kind of base under siege with the spa, I really enjoyed. And there's some really good moments with it. I think the biggest problem I had with the story was the ending. So they kind of were trying to put this message of of course, global warming and climate change throughout this episode. And I felt that was okay. They kind of weaved it into the story. I really liked it. But there's something about that speech that the 13th Doctor did at the end. I just didn't like it. Jodie just talking straight to the audience about this issue. And she was just talking to the companions, but it didn't really feel like that. I just don't know. Something was really off about that scene, and I just did not like it. Because the main reason why they have that message, and this is basically because Orphan 55, which is this dead planet, is Earth in one of many possible futures. Now, the dregs are, of course, mutated humans who basically have now adapted to live in this environment. Overall, the main problem I have with the story is it's a really good idea. I really enjoyed this kind of notion of this kind of Orphan 55 abandoned planet being turned into this new tranquility spa. Great idea. Kind of add base under siege ideas, and it was a pretty decent story overall. However, I really didn't like how this episode felt kind of really weirdly paced. It felt like they were trying to cram so much ideas into one Doctor Who story that by the end of it, I was just not into the story anymore. And I think this actually story is one of those kind of perfect examples of why sometimes two-parters should be for other stories sometimes, because I think this story could have been really good if it kind of had the two-part kind of format, because I think they could have developed a lot of these characters, made you really care about them, and you could have also built up to the dregs, which were a very scary kind of design. And I liked how at the beginning, you didn't see their whole body yet, you just saw their face kind of looming into to attack people. So there's a lot of good premises that the story could have had, but I think overall, it just felt very underwhelming. But what I can say is, this is a lot better than the Serenga Conundrum. It's not the worst Doctor Who story from the Jodie Whittaker era. It's just one of those stories that is very average, has a lot of good ideas in it, some really good performances and some really bad performances, but the creature design on the future mutated humans was really well done. So there's some positives in here and some really negatives. So that's my thoughts on this episode, but tell me your guys' thoughts on this episode, and of course the comments below. Did you really hate it, or did you really enjoy it? You know, I think there's some really elements that can be really enjoyed in the story, and some others that just really I didn't like. But overall, I really don't know what to rate this story. I've been kind of leaning toward a 5.5 to a 6, because it's just not, like, awful. You know, it's not like an awful story. It's just very average and kind of forgettable. You know, like, I barely remember much about this episode, and that's not good. You don't really want that with Doctor Who episodes. That's it for tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed my review of Orphan 55. I'm really excited for next week's Doctor Who episode. It looks really kind of an interesting idea, and I'm really hoping that one is a really decent story. So that is, of course, it for tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.